Sonic is blue. Roses are pink. Sonic fans are mad on Twitter. What else did you think? The newest Sonic controversy is definitely not one that we would have expected. And believe it or not, it involves this lovely place that I'm standing in right now, Kingdom Valley. It also involves this lovely place called Wave Ocean. Hey, Sonic, watch out. You're gonna get shot. Oh, okay, he's dead. Okay. Yes, of course, the newest Sonic controversy involves Sonic 06, a game that we can't seem to let go into the past. And there's a reason why we can't let this game go into the past. There have been recent statements made by the Sonic team that have brought this game back into the forefront of the Sonic discussion. And that is because Shun Nakamura recently joined an official Sonic fan meeting in Indonesia for a Q&A panel. The panel mostly focused on Sonic and Shadow Generations, but there's a major statement that was made in the recap that has really set off the fan base. To skip all of the Shadow Generation stuff, he commented about several things about the Sonic series. So Shun Nakamura was talking about Silver, and he said he was originally supposed to be an alien with psychic powers before finally being designed as a hedgehog from the future. Also, when asked about the next step forward for Sonic, Hoshina said that Sonic Team will take inspiration from past iterations of games. Shun Nakamura, this is the statement that really shocked the world. He said, when asked if Sonic Team will remake or remaster past games like Sonic 06, Sonic Heroes, Adventure 1 and 2, or maybe even consider a Sonic Adventure 3, he says that old games and new games remain appealing. He has previously said that he personally wishes for an opportunity to remake Sonic 06. The reason why this is pretty significant is because we need to talk about who Shun Nakamura even is. He has a pretty lengthy history of working on the Sonic series, going as far back as Sonic R in 1997, and he was the current producer for Sonic and Shadow Generations. But also, for Sonic 06, he was the director, chief game designer, game story, and game title person. So, someone who worked on the original Sonic 06 wants to remake Sonic 06. Now, does this mean that Sonic 06 is going to get remade? Well, I would say absolutely not. I don't think this is going to happen. But that did not stop the fan base from speculating what a potential Sonic 06 remake could entail. And of course, it got extremely crazy, and people were going back and forth arguing with each other. This Sonic stuff really, it gets serious online. Without highlighting any of the extracurricular stuff, because I don't think it's productive to attack people because of their video game opinions, let's just talk about the substance of the argument, because it is an interesting discussion. A Sonic 06 remake, what would that entail? One of the most colossal failures in all of video game history being remade, how could that even be possible? Well, let's discuss the pros and let's discuss the cons. So the first pro to remaking Sonic 06 is simply the fact that we have the modern technology to actually finish this game. The story of the development of Sonic 06 is extremely well documented, and everybody knows the story of this game. It was met with extreme deadlines that the team had to face in order to get this game out for holiday season 2006. Also, during the development of Sonic 06, there was also something else going on. The team was split and simultaneously working on the Sonic and the Secret Rings game for the Nintendo Wii. So the team was split, there was a tough deadline, and that led to a lot of bugs and unpolished gameplay. One of the things that this game is most famous for is its glitches, and some even argue, and honestly, when I was younger, these glitches were some of the charm of the game. It was the most fun part that you would experience. Regardless, this is one of the many issues that plagued this game and eventually led to its demise. So simply having the time, resources, and technology to fix all of the unpolished parts of this game would probably go a long way and allow them to truly flesh out their original vision. Let's not forget how horrible the loading screens were in Sonic 06. This was one of the things, especially how frequent they are in the game, sometimes mid-level, sometimes when walking around the hub world. This really killed the experience, so just getting rid of that would even be good as well. The next positive for a Sonic 06 remake is that the game has very good bones. And what do I mean by the game has good bones? Well, it means the structure of it is good. Maybe I'm a little biased, but growing up, I loved Sonic 06. This was one of my favorite games. It truly felt like it was an evolution of the Sonic Adventure formula. This was Sonic Adventure 3 by all accounts. When I played this game originally and I was running away from the whale in Wave Ocean, I'm like, yep, that's exactly like Emerald Coast. This is Sonic Adventure just on the next gen consoles. For all the faults that the game has, the game does have pretty solid level design for 3D Sonic. Now, the physics of the game are a little wonky and it's not great to control in the current iteration of Sonic 06. Sonic Project 06, a fan remake, has showed us that if the game's physics are improved and the controls are a little bit better, we have a game that's extremely solid on our hands. Now, it's tough to say whether a remake would actually change the physics, but regardless, the story of this game is that it has had a lot of potential. And when you play Sonic P06, you realize that this is what the game would look like had it reached its true full potential. Now, would they implement these controls and physics? That remains to be seen, but the game has great bones. I mean, look at Kingdom Valley. This is one of the greatest Sonic levels ever designed. So Project 06 shows us that Sonic 06 could have been one of the greatest Sonic games of all time. So it's like if Sonic 06 just reached its full potential and then the gameplay, they just made it good, fixed it up, and polished it, there's no way that that could be a negative. Like, having a good Sonic game is always a positive. Another positive about a potential Sonic 06 remake is that it can restore the legacy of past failures. Like we had stated earlier in the video, Sonic 06 was a colossal legacy-defining failure for the Sonic franchise, and it feels like it can't even escape the negativity that this game has brought upon the franchise since. I'm sure a lot of the recent success for the Sonic franchise has definitely been vindicating for a lot of people who have worked on it since the failures of Sonic 06, but also at the same time, how sweet would it be to actually avenge the game that really started the entire downfall? I'm sure it would be something that would be very fulfilling and vindicating for the team that worked on these games, giving them a chance to redeem themselves. It's probably better personally for the people that worked on it as opposed to like us, the fans, but I guess, you know, maybe the fans also take it personally too. But nonetheless, it's still a positive in my opinion. So here's something that could be a positive, but also we're going to talk about this as a negative later on in the video when we get to the cons. But one of the tweets that started the discourse had this dialogue. It said, 06 remake with boost formula, current voice cast, models, and an Ian Flynn rewrite. And the meme basically says, no thanks. Yeah, one of the things that I think could be cool about this, I mean, I'm a little bit biased. I'm a content creator, but if we had new content, that would always be a good thing. Like having new levels to run through, like if they redesign any of the levels and even putting in the boost formula. Listen, I'm not like the biggest boost formula guy, but I mean, Shadow Generations remade Kingdom Valley with the boost formula and it was super fun. Like the gameplay was really good. It's one of the best levels in the game. So it's like, yeah, if they just did this to every single level and made it control like Shadow Generations, would it be the worst thing in the world? I mean, sure, it would ruffle some feathers and cause a lot of discourse, but listen, good level design, fun gameplay, new content, I'll definitely take it. Furthermore, I wouldn't necessarily be against some of the rewrites for the story. Like the human and hedgehog romance stuff is something that I definitely disliked about the story, and I wish that that wasn't in the game. So if they took that out, I definitely would not be against it. So if you could rewrite some of the things of the story, hey, it wouldn't be the worst thing, because a lot of people do criticize the story of Sonic 06. So we've talked about some of the good, but now let's talk about some of the cons and obviously some of the reasons why I don't think that this will happen. And one of the cons is the legacy of this game. The reason why I don't think the game will ever get remade, even some of the news about this game getting remade has also made some headlines already. And that's because journalists love talking about this game in a negative light. We have to harp back to the critic scores of this game. It was one of the worst reviewed games. It's a total meme. Like everyone just ranks on this game and no one, I feel like, would be able to take it seriously and give it the proper respect that it deserves if they did end up making the game good. I feel like the announcement of a Sonic 06 remake would just be a total clown show and circus in terms of like its media coverage and whatever. Not saying that that's like the end all be all. I feel like at the same time, Sega probably doesn't want to be reminded of its colossal failures, and maybe it would be best to just move forward and look to the future for the franchise as opposed to reaching back. But it is true that Sonic Team does want to make more remakes and remasters, but at that point, why don't you remake and remaster some of the games that were received just slightly better than Sonic 06? Do you imagine if Sega announces a remaster or remake for this game, everybody in the media clowns on it, and then the game still ends up bombing? Like, I don't think it's a good business decision considering the legacy of the game, and it's just like a giant risk. I don't think as a business you want to take risks like that. The next thing on the list are the things that I call the quote-unquote unfixable. So it's like, what if they just simply don't really change the bones or structure of the game, and all they do is kind of fix the glitches, polish the game up a little bit, and kind of leave it basically as it is in terms of like the story and everything like that. The unfixables are the things that I think people inherently don't like about the game, or at least the majority of people, because obviously not all opinions are a monolith, right? I mean, some people absolutely adore this game, and obviously a lot of people hate it. One of the things that people really don't like about the game is the story. Some people do like it though, because it's more high stakes and ambitious, but also there are some things that I inherently don't like about the story either. So it's like these things, if they just kept it the way it is, probably would still ruffle a lot of people's feathers, and people probably still wouldn't like this. Other things I don't necessarily love about the game that I think a lot of people agree with is some of the gameplay styles for some of the characters. For example, playing as Silver the Hedgehog, I really don't find his gameplay to be that fun. It's very much too slow paced for my liking, so I don't think necessarily polishing the game would really fix that for me and other people who don't like this part of the game. People also don't like the hub worlds in the game either, so that could be a big potential issue as well, considering if they just bring that back pretty much unchanged. Some people don't like this strange Final Fantasy-esque world that it takes place in. It feels a little bit alien to the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise feels a little bit different than what the core like locations typically are. So people don't like that either. So that's also something you're going to have to deal with as an obstacle if you considering that this is something that's part of the core gameplay that wouldn't be able to be changed. Like, hello, hyper realistic Dr. Eggman, super cursed. And the base controls of the game could obviously be better as well. So it's like, what if they don't fix that? They kind of just like fix up the glitches. So obviously that would be a huge risk if they bring back a lot of the stuff that can't be fixed, assuming that they don't try to fix some of the core issues with it, as opposed to just like finishing the game. You know what I mean? I think the unfixables are something that are definitely a con about this game and could lead to a lot of issues should it ever be remade or remastered. So long story short, it's not rocket science, but if you bring back core elements of the game that a majority of people fundamentally dislike, it could be a bad thing for the game. To harp back on the tweet that started a lot of the Sonic 06 discourse, we also do have to talk about the fact that, you know, what if they did a remake with boost formula, or change the voice cast, or they changed the models, or that Ian Flynn contributed to a rewrite, which like any one of those four scenarios could happen if they went with a remake. So we have to discuss exactly what that would entail. Harping back to the point that the game does have good bones, like what if you change the bones of the game? For example, I mean, rewriting the story. What if some people absolutely adore and love the story of Sonic 06? And there's definitely a lot of people out there that do love the story of Sonic 06. So it's like, if you change that, you're going to alienate the people that loved that part of your game. You could definitely argue that some of those changes could be for the better, but at the same time, if you change something that people like, people will revolt against you, and you're going to cause a split within your fan base. Redesigning some of the levels, I think, would also be extremely controversial, because like I had stated before earlier in the video, Sonic 06 definitely has good level design, and stuff like Project 06 definitely confirms that these levels are good. They just didn't have the right controls, physics, and polish. So what happens when you change the level design that people think are good? Well, you're going to get some people that don't like the new levels. So naturally, causing a split and divide within your own fan base is not usually the best thing to do, although you could also argue it doesn't really matter what they think. At the end of the day, you just need to make your money. But ultimately, I think a lot of these changes and the idea of remaking Sonic 06 is just simply a case of the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Ultimately, one way or the other, I wouldn't necessarily be against a Sonic 06 remake. I don't think it's really a great business decision, but hey, listen, if they make new content, I will have more stuff to make videos on. So I'll never say no, but that's kind of my take on the Sonic 06 remake. For the record, I think there's next to a 0% chance of this actually happening. But let me know what you guys think about all this down below.